Classification of fuels.
Classification of fuels. Really, is that feasible? What is this next slide? I can change the slide. Is that visible to you?
No, ma'am.
Yes.
No, ma'am, the
Now it is.
classification of fuel is there.
See now?
No, ma'am.
Classification of fuels. It is classified based on the classified on the basis of their occurrence physical state.
Yes, ma'am, now it's
Based
visible.
on their occurrence. Yes. Based on the occurrence, fuels are of two types: primary fuels and secondary. What are primary fuels? Is primary fuels are those found to occur in nature. To occur in nature are used as a such either without processing or after being processed. Means they appear in the as it is. They are the primary fuels. They occur in the nature. They occur in the nature in a certain concept. What is secondary fuels? Sorry. Secondary fuels are those which are derived from the primary fuel. Secondary fuels are those which are derived from the primary fuels. These are the derived from the primary fuel or by felt altering chemical composition. You can see here, this is the chemical composition. They are called as derived fuels. They are called as what? They are called as derived fuels. These derived fuels, example for primary fuels, you can take wood, which is naturally occur, peat, lignite, coal, petroleum. They are all naturally occurring substances. And the secondary or derived coals are, for example, coke, charcoal, kerosene, producer gas. These are secondary derived process. They are secondary derived chemicals. 1 minute. Yes. The next is on the basis of this, how it is defined and how it is been classified into primary and secondary fuels, and the examples which you can see are based on solid fuel, based on the state of appearance. State of appearance is this one, the chemical solid fuels, which are these are solid fuels, and wood and coal, which are in the solid state. Charcoal or coke are the secondary. This charcoal and coke are derived from the primary fuels. And secondary fuels are liquid fuels. Primary fuels are crude petroleum oil and the crude oil. Petrol and diesel and kerosene are the examples. Gaseous fuels, example, natural gas. In the gaseous state, it is appear. This is based on the state it is classified. Based on the state, it is classified as LPG. Examples I'm saying, they are CNG, CNG and CNG and water gas, coal gas, and biogas are the examples for secondary. And these fuels are what are the characteristics is which have higher calorific value. These higher calorific value and this moderate temperature, higher temp. It should have a high calorific value. I'll tell you what is calorific value. It should have a moderate temperature. It should not have a lower temperature or higher temperature so that it evaporates. It should low moisture. It should contain low moisture content. It should contain low ash. It should not give more ash after burning. The velocity of combustion should be moderate. It should not produce harmful products. It should have a low cost and easy storage and transportation. Easy storage and transportation and easily controllable. These are the characteristic properties of the oil. So we will see one by one what are the characteristics. It is not there in your syllabus, but slightly we will glance at the characteristics of the fuel. What is that means? it should have a efficiency of burning, how much heat is generated. It should have a, based on that, we will decide its calorific value. Calorific value is the measurement of how much it is produced by burning. That is called as calorific value. Whether it has high calorific value or low calorific value, that determines by the measurement of heat energy liberated. And the next characteristic is should have proper ignition temperature. As soon as you ignite, it should ignite, it starts burning. It should not take any delay in burning, or it should not combustion, it should not be delay process. And it should not ignition at the temperature low or not too high. Okay, and it should not produce poisonous products during combustion. In other words, it should not cause pollution on combustion, and it should not give any harmful or toxic chemicals to the environment. And what is the fourth characteristic is, the fourth characteristic product is it should have a moderate rate of combustion. It should not ignite very in a blastic way, it should not ignite very fast, or it should not delay in process. It should have a proper combustion rate. And it should, the fuel to behave as a good fuel or ideal fuel, the combustion should be easily controllable. It can be easily controllable. It should not be, it should not blast, or it should not, the rate of combustion, it should not be very low. So it can be easily controllable. Whenever we want, we can start or we can easily stop. So that control of combustion, it should be moderate. And the next is behind much combustion, it should have behind much ash combustion means it should not leave more ash as a residue after combustion. And it's the characteristic 7.8, it is easily available in the plenty. It should be cheap and it should be easily available, and it should not contain more moisture. So that if it contains more moisture, what happens? It takes time to burn. It takes time for combustion. It takes more time for burning process. So it should have low moisture content. And the next, and the size in case of solid fuels, the size should be uniform so that combustion is regular. The size should be combustion. It should be in the low combustion is regular. It should the size of the particles in the fuel should be moderate. It should be not heavy molecule should not present, or it should not contain less carbon content. It should contain minimum size of the carbon particle so it can easily regulate. And the 10 characteristic properties, it should be low cost and cheaply available in the, and the seventh one is easy to handle and easy to transport. These are the characteristic properties. 11 characteristic properties are there for the good fuel or a ideal fuel. Sometimes they will ask what are fuels, how they are classified, and explain give 2 or 3 characteristic properties of a fuel. So characteristic properties are not there in the syllabus. At least these things you can write. If at all they asked by chance, if at all they asked in the question, they may ask, like sometimes analyze, you have what are the characteristic properties means you can write combustion, cheaply available, easily transportation, and easy ignition point, and easily available, plenty, it should not contain moisture, combustion rate should be controllable. These are general characteristic properties you can write 4 or 5 in the question as an answer. Understood? Is this clear? Friends, the characteristic properties of a good
Yes, ma'am.
fuel.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And next is calorific value, which is very, very important, calorific value. So the calorific value here, the calorific value is nothing but it is the value of the fuel. The fuel is total quantity, whatever the total quantity is present of a heat liberated, whatever the total heat liberated after burning a unit quantity of mass or volume. After burning, unit quantity of mass or burning of the fuel is burnt completely in air or oxygen. So what it means? It means, for example, 1 unit of carbon is there, 1 unit of carbon. Say, for example, in 1 unit of carbon, one number, instead of saying 1 unit, I'll say 1 number of carbon is present in the petrol. Take, we are using petrol. It is not only 1 carbon is, I'm just giving you an example. Assume that only 1 carbon is present in the one carbon is present in the petrol. When you start burning it, when you ignite some energy, it will liberate. For example, it will liberate 14 kilocalories. That is, there is different pointer. Here it is there. Say for example, one carbon after burning, it liberates 14 kilocalories. Means it is the value of heat energy is liberated after burning one carbon of unit, one carbon. Say for example, one carbon, so much of energy is liberated, so much of heat energy is liberated. Say suppose if it contains 7 carbon, that means one carbon it is liberating 14 kilocalories, means 7 carbons, obviously 7 times it has to liberate more energy, heat of energy. So what is the value of liberated? It should be more than 50 kilocalories, right? So like this, the heat value, whatever, how we are measuring this value of heat energy liberated, based on the combustion of 1 unit of carbon, based on the combustion of 1 unit of carbon, the mass of the carbon. 1 unit is nothing but how many carbons, how many units of carbon atoms are present. Like octane or cetane, which is present. Octane is the unit. Octane is the unit. What is octane? What is the IUPAC name? How you are going to nomenclature octane? Octane means how much? Oct means how many carbon atoms?
8,
8 carbon atoms. 8 carbon atoms. Cetane means decane. Decane means how many carbon atoms? Decane. 10 carbon
10,
atoms. Dodecane is 12. Right. Cetane means decane. It contains 10 carbon atoms. Cetane is the unit present in the 1 unit present in the diesel. Octane is the 1 unit of present in the petrol. Like this, octane 1 unit means 8 carbon molecule is present as 1 unit. Like this, in 1 liter of petrol, there are number of octane molecules are present. Based on the amount of octane present, based on the number of octane molecules present, we can decide the quality of petrol. Based on the number of cetane molecules present, we can decide the quality of diesel. Like that, 1 unit of this by burning, whatever the value is measured, that value is called as calorific value. Understood? So this value, what is the unit to measure this calorific value? The unit to measure this calorific value is, we will use calorie. We'll use calorie. What we are saying, how many calories are burnt on gym, on exercising. Calories means how many calories you burnt, or like that we will talk in a casually way, right? So this is how many energy, how much energy is liberated, that is expressed in terms of calories. So this calorie is defined as the amount of heat liberated, heat required, the amount of heat required to rise the temperature, amount of heat required to rise the temperature of 1 gram of water by 1 degree Celsius. Like this is the calorie. No need to remember all these things. You can just write the calorific value can be expressed in terms of calories. So calories is nothing but 4.18. The standard value for calories is 4.185 joules. So kilocalories is calories. Usually we'll express it is equal to 1000. If it is for 1 gram, it is expressed in calorie. If it is for kgs or kilograms, it will be expressed in 1000 kilocalories. The standard value for calories is 4.185 joules. And this calorific value, there are 2 types of in British thermal unit and in centrifuge heat thermal unit. We will do in British thermal unit. It is defined as the heat required to rise the temperature at 1 pound of water. In a British thermal unit, it is expressed in terms of 252 calories, that is 0.252 kilocalories, which is equal to 1054.6 joules. This is in terms of British thermal unit. So what is British thermal unit? There is a difference between the normal and British thermal unit. The British thermal unit normal calorific value gives the value of 4.185 joules. This is the calorific value in terms of kilocalories. In terms of British thermal unit is expressed in terms of 1054.6 joules. And in case of centrifugate heat unit, it is defined as the amount of heat liberated, amount of heat required to rise the temperature. 1 kilo is equal to 3.968 British thermal unit, which is equal to 2.2 CHU. So how they will ask in the exam, what is calorific value, how it is expressed in terms of different thermal units, in different units. If they at all they ask in different units, you have to write all that. If at all they ask, if they don't ask, they just you write only the calories in terms of calories, how it is expressed. Clear? Understood? Understood or not? Students, why all are silent?
No, ma'am, we are here, ma'am.
I know you are here, but you are not responding. Are you clear about this topic, or you want me to repeat? I'm just asking that.
No, ma'am, it's clear.
Okay. Next is and its determination. How we are going to determine the calorific value. This is very important. Every time in the question paper, they'll ask you based on this HCV and GCV. There will be one numerical and there will be one definition. Definitely there will be in the question paper. So this is very important. What is high calorific value? Higher calorific value or a gross calorific value. Higher calorific value is nothing but higher calorific value or a gross value. Higher calorific value is it is represented by HCV or GCV. It is the total amount. Remember, higher means it is the total amount. Higher means it is the total. Gross means it is the total. Gross means total. How much the total amount of heat produced, when unit quantity of a mass by volume of fuel has been burned completely in air or oxygen present and the products of combustion have been cooled to room temperature. What is this mean? Here I have given the equation. Gross calorific value is equal to net calorific value plus latent heat of condensation of water vapor produced. Latent heat of condensation of water produced. Together, whatever the heat produced by the fuel, this is the fuel value, and the heat produced by the moisture and the water which is present, that is called as the gross calorific value. Gross means HCV. In a short form, we will represent as HCV. It is present the total calorific value, the total amount of heat produced during on combustion of fuel along with the water vapor or a moisture. This is your gross calorific value. This gross calorific value, it can be burn, it can be combustion happens in presence of oxygen, and it can be cooled to room temperature. After cooling, you have to measure. That is gross calorific value. The next is calorific value. The lower calorific value or net calorific value. The lower calorific value or net calorific value. The lower calorific value or net calorific value is represented by LCV or NCV. It is only the heat produced by the net heat produced. Only heat produced by the fuel. Only on burning of the fuel, how much it is heat produced. That only we are measuring, not completely leaving the water or the moisture. How much heat produced only on combustion of 1 unit mass of the fuel on burnt completely in presence of oxygen. The products are permitted to escape. This is called as value or net calorific value. So the equation to measure this NCV is, what is how we are going to measure NCV means net calorific value is measured by gross calorific value minus latent heat of condensation of water vapor produced. What is this latent heat of condensation of water produced? How we are going to measure? That is NCV is equal to HCV. HCV is nothing but gross calorific value. I am writing in other terms, that is higher calorific value. The latent heat of condensation of water we can write in terms of 0.09 into hydrogen 587 into specific heat of water. I repeat, NCV equation can be written as HCV minus 0.09 into hydrogen percentage 587, the standard calorific equation for water, and the specific heat of water. Together this, it gives the latent heat of condensation of water. It depends on the percentage of hydrogen present. It only the percentage of hydrogen varies, not the other terms. All other terms are standard. They are the constant value. What is this 0.09? How we get this 0.09? This 0.09 is based on the fact that 1 part of hydrogen by mass gives 9 parts of water. Remember, 1 part of it means that 1 part of hydrogen mass gives 9 parts of water, and latent heat of steam is 587 kilocalories per kg, and specific heat of water is 4.187 kilojoules per kg. So this is how we have to calculate the net calorific value for the fuel. So how we have to determine from where we get this 0.9? I'll clearly explain here in this slide how we got that 0.09. Just a glance here. So what is hydrogen? See here, hydrogen 2 grams, 2 grams of hydrogen, half grams of oxygen to give 18 grams of water. Correct? 2 grams of hydrogen gives 18 grams of water. So 1 gram of hydrogen gives 18 by 2, how much? 9 grams. So hydrogen percentage in terms of 100 grams means 9 into hydrogen in by 100 is nothing but 0.09 hydrogen molecules, 0.09 molecules. So heat is liberated during condensation of steam is 0.09 into hydrogen, that is 0.09 into H into 587 calories per gram. This is how we will get. How we get it? This is how 0.09. From where we will get, madam, this 0.09? This is how we are getting 0.09. Don't worry about all these derivations. They are not going to. This is for your reference, like how we get this 0.09 to understand very clearly. I just showed you how we will get this 0.09 for the calculation of NCV. Understood? So what is the GCV? I'll just glance, I'll just repeat. GCV is the higher calorific value. Higher calorific value is the total amount of heat produced along with net calorific value along with latent heat of condensation of water vapor. That is gross calorific value is equal to, you can write in a short form. You can write it in a short form. GCV is equal to, I'll just write here, GCV. And I'm writing, okay. GCV, that is a gross calorific value or high calorific value, is equal to NCV plus latent heat of steam. You can write in a short way, latent heat of steam or water vapor. You can write it in a short way. This equation you can write for your classification, for your understanding purpose. So GCV is nothing but NCV plus LHS. LHS is the latent heat of steam or water vapor. Latent heat of steam or water vapor. This is a short way we can write. Next. So net calorific value or a low calorific value is nothing but it is the amount of heat liberated only on combustion of only for the fuel. It is represented by NCV is equal to GCV minus here GCV minus latent heat of condensation of water. That is nothing but 0.09 into H into 587 into specific heat of water. Specific heat of water. So this is how we have to calculate the latent heat of condensation of water. So how we are going to calculate the latent heat of condensation of water? This is how, that is 0.09. We get like this by equating the equation. Is this clear? How to calculate NCV and GCV? Definitely there will be a question on GCV and LCV, and numerical also. Definitely there will be one numerical pakka for 8 marks or 8 marks. Definitely there will be one numerical on this. Calculate GCV and LCV and higher calorific value for the exam, in the exam, and in the IA also we are going to ask on this one numerical. Clear? Is this clear? Understood very neatly? Or you want me to repeat again? Students,
No, ma'am, it's clear.
understood? Shall I go to next?
Yes, ma'am.
If I'm going fast and if you are not understanding, ask me. I don't mind repeating. Okay. Otherwise, I'll go in the same speed. Is that okay? One of 5 people will not respond at all. Only one student will respond. Fine. Next, this calorific value we are representing or we are measuring. The calorific value we are measuring by using a device for solid and liquid. See, for example, only for the solid and liquid. This is for solid. The solid and liquid, we have a bomb calorimeter. And this bomb calorimeter is the device, the bomb calorie. Remember the bomb. The bomb calorimeter is a device. What is the principle behind the bomb calorimeter? The principle behind this bomb calorimeter is a known mass, whatever the known mass of the fuel, as example, is burnt completely in presence of air or oxygen. Whatever the heat liberated, it is absorbed by the water and calorimeter. Don't write calorimeter, it is calorimeter. And the heat lost by the burning of fuel, is equal to heat gained by the water and calorimeter. Heat gained by water or calorimeter. And the calorific value of the fuel is calculated from the measured data. Calorific value of the fuel is calculated from the measured. The principle behind this bomb calorimeter is to measure the heat liberated, How to measure this heat liberated? How it is burning, how the fuel is burning complete, whether the fuel is burnt completely or not, whether the fuel is burnt in the presence of oxygen or air, or it is liberated, the heat is absorbed by the water and calorimeter, and the heat gained by the water calorimeter or a heat lost by the calorimeter. These are the 5 principles. Based on these 5 principles, we can calculate or we can measure by using this device. How exactly this device looks like? The device looks like this. Can you see the device? Bomb calorimeter. I changed the slide. Is that appeared on your screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So this bomb calorimeter
Yes, ma'am.
exactly looks like this. Yes, you can see here inside there is a tank, right? This is the drum space. This is the steel tank. This is the steel tank, whatever I'm marking. Can you see what I'm marking? This is the steel tank. This is called as sample holder. This is the sample holder. This is the steel tank or where you can keep the sample. This is like a sample holder or where you can place the sample inside of it. And this is one stirrer, magnetic stirrer. This is here. This is the temperature. Actually, this is a thermometer to measure the temperature. This is thermometer. It has to be fixed and it contains a magnetic stirrer which contains a here there is a magnetic sphere to stir the water proportionally or uniformly inside the thermostatic bath, and it is being connected to the ignition box where it is a ignition box where it helps in igniting the sample. It helps in igniting the sample in presence of oxygen. So this ignition box helps in igniting the fuel. Just like a stove, like a gas stove, we'll go just automatically switched on, right? Like that, if you switch on that, if you press on a switch button, automatically the sample inside the bath will be switched on for the it will get ignited and it will start burning. So this is how the device looks like a steel tank. So this steel tank outside it is covered by the outside part of it is covered by the tank steel. It is made up with the steel. The design of the bomb calorimeter can be according to our sample and according to our convenience. We can decide the height and the diameter. We can design and we can place this calorimeter. Okay. So it is in our hands, and this calorimeter sample also how much you are taking, everything we should know. So how it is being constructed? No, don't write. You cannot write this diagram. You have to write this diagram. This diagram in the exam. How it is been constructed. The bomb calorimeter. So the bomb calorimeter looks like it contains a steel tank. 6 volts of battery it is being connected, and thermometer is fixed and it is fixed to the magnetic stirrer, electric stirrer, and it is connected to or it is placed inside the water bath, and it is connected to a steel tank which is covered by the drum as the water jacket. We can say it is a water jack. This is the diagram you have to write neatly, which carries 2 to 3 marks in the exam. If you write neatly this diagram and label the parts of a bomb calorimeter. How we are going to measure the calorific value by using this device? How we are going to, have you seen, looked at this diagram? Is that visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. See here in the sample holder, because we are measuring in for a solid or liquid, so you have to take a known mass of the fuel that is expressed in terms of M. Known mass of the fuel has been taken. Before that, you have to, with the help of a thermometer, you have to note down the temperatures. Initial temperature, that is T1 degree Celsius and T2 degree Celsius. This is T1 is initial and T2 is after burning. T1 is before burning, before starting ignition, measure the temperature. T2 is after burning, after completely burning, you have to measure the temperature. The difference between T1 and T2 will given by del T. Del T is the difference between the temperature. And note down the specific heat of water. The water is present here. Hence, you note down the specific heat of water, that is S. So what and all you are noting down? How much quantity of the fuel you are taken in terms of grams, in terms of kgs, how much you have taken in terms of M. Note down the temperatures T1 and T2 and find out the difference in del T and note down the specific heat of water, that is S. After noting down, you have to write down, after noting down this, you have to calculate the water equivalent. That also you have to note down. The water equivalent mass present, I'll write here. The water equivalent mass, that is W1 before the combustion and W2 after the combustion. W1 before the combustion and WO2 after the combustion. WO1 is water equivalent, mass of water equivalent before burning the fuel, water equivalent after combustion of the fuel. Why we have to measure these two? Because it may changes the water level inside the water bath. Here the water bath is present right here in the inside the, you can see here here also water is there, here also water. This water level, is there is any rise in temperature, rise in water level or decrease in water level, you can easily note down by noting down the W1 and W2. These are the terms you have to note down when you are starting the experiment. After noting down, this is how construction part. After noting down, I'll tell you. So, where is that equation? Yes, this is the equation. Note down the mass of the fuel sample taken in the crucible. That is in terms of F, M, and W is the capital W is mass of water taken in calorimeter. Small w is water equivalent of calorimeter. T1 degree Celsius is initial temperature of water. T2 degree Celsius is final temperature of water. And S is the specific heat of water. These are the standard calculations you have to note down before starting the burning the fuel. Once after burning the fuel, note down everything and then you can calculate the calorific value by using the equation. By using this equation, you can calculate that is M into GCV is equal to WW into S into T2 minus T1. Therefore, GCV is equal to what happened? Water equivalent, that is capital W, or if it is confusing, you can write W1 plus W2 into S into T2 minus T1, that is del T, I will write del T, mass, that is the mass of the fuel. So by using this equation, you can calculate the gross calorific value. GCV can be calculated by W1 plus W2. If you are confusing by capital W and small w, you can easily write that mass equivalent weight of water before and after, specific heat of water. T2 is the initial final temperature of water bath. T1 is the initial temperature of water bath, that is del T, divided by M is the mass of the quantity. By using this equation, you can calculate the calorific value. So what is the unit to express the calorific value? Kilocalories, calories per kilojoules. It is the unit to measure the calorific value by using bomb calorimeter. So this is about bomb calorimeter. We will see in the next class how we have to calculate the how to construct the bomb calorimeter, and based on the bomb calorimeter, some examples, some numericals we have to solve. Numericals I'll take up at the last class, I'll take up. Before that, we'll complete whatever the left out portions. Clear? Is this understood, or you want me, anything you have to repeat? Tomorrow also we will take up the bomb calorimeter, the construction part, and by the time, at that time also I'll explain how to take this GCV value. Understood or not understood? Is this clear, the topics today, what and all we discussed?
Yes, ma'am.
Simply don't say yes. Really, are you happy with not happy, or really are you understanding? Don't say simply. Hmm?
Ma'am, once we will read, it will be more clear.
Yes. Only